Welcome back to WION World is One. Thank you so much for staying with us. My name is Neem Korsaro and here's a look at what we've lined up for you on SpeedNews today. Ukraine and Russia set to hold new peace talks on Wednesday in Istanbul. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced this round of negotiation comes after two previous talks in May and June failed to yield significant progress in ending the war. The talks coincide with increased pressure from US President Donald Trump, who gave Russia 50 days to negotiate a deal or face sanctions. Zelensky's announcement of a fresh round of negotiations comes in the wake of the latest Russian barrage on the Ukrainian capital Kyiv, which sparked several fires and damaged an underground air raid shelter where civilians had taken refuge. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi stated that the country's nuclear program remains intact despite severe damage from US airstrikes on the 22nd of June, which targeted the Fordo, Natanz and Isfahan nuclear facilities. Araghchi emphasized that Iran won't abandon its uranium enrichment program, calling it a source of national pride and an achievement of its scientists. While enrichment activities are currently halted due to damage, Araghchi stressed that any future nuclear deal must include Iran's right to enrichment. While Israeli military has intercepted a ballistic missile launched by Yemen's Houthi rebels, triggering sirens across part of central Israel, this incident comes a day after Israel conducted airstrikes on the Houthi-controlled port city of Hodeidah, targeting infrastructure and fuel storage sites. The Houthis are about to continue their attacks on Israel until the Gaza war ends and the blockade on humanitarian aid is lifted. A memorial with 893 chairs featuring photos of fallen Israeli soldiers is being set up along Tel Aviv's beach promenade to commemorate those killed since the war began, when Hamas-led militants stormed into Israel on the 7th of October back in 2023. People walking past the chairs lingered to look at the photos located in Tel Aviv's hottest spot for the summer tourists. The installation was initiated by Israel's Ministry of Diaspora Affairs of the Foreign Ministry. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar has resigned 2 years before the end of his 5-year tenure. He was elected as the Vice President in August 2022 after being fielded by the ruling BJP-led NDA. In his resignation letter, which was tendered to the President of India, he cited health reasons for stepping down. He had recently undergone angioplasty at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, AIIMS in Delhi. The opposition Congress questioned the timing of his resignation as it came at the start of the monsoon session of the parliament. North Korea has vowed to build an additional 5,000-ton destroyer for its navy after the nuclear-armed country launched two similar vessels this year. Leader Kim Jong-un has vowed to ramp up his country's naval capacities and presided over the April launch of the country's first 5,000-ton destroyer class naval ship, the WION. South Korea's military has said the ship could have been developed with Russian help, possibly in exchange for deploying thousands of troops to help Moscow fight in Ukraine. The North Korean delegation of all-female officials led by Kim Jong-sun, Department Director of the Central Committee of Workers' Party of Korea, has left Pyongyang to visit Russia. In footage provided by the North's official news agency KCNA, Russia's ambassador to North Korea, Alexander Matsargora, and Pyongyang officials were seen sending off the delegation. Relations between Russia and North Korea have deepened during the last 2 years of the war in Ukraine, which started in February 2022, with Pyongyang deploying more than 10,000 troops and arms to Russia to back Moscow's military campaign. According to reports, the purpose and schedule of this rare visit was not publicly disclosed by North Korean state broadcaster. Trump administration releases hundreds of thousands of pages of records about the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. despite concerns from civil rights leaders' family. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, stated that the release aims to provide complete transparency of the event, adding that the American people have waited 60 years to see the full scope of the federal government's investigation. Incidentally, the documents shed light on the government's investigation into King's assassination in 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. In a statement on Monday, King's two surviving children, Martin Luther King III and Bernice King, said that they support transparency and historical accountability, but were concerned the records could be used for attacks on our father's legacy. San Francisco is set to ban homeless people from living in recreational vehicles by adopting strict rules. The mayor's office says necessary steps are being taken to keep neighborhoods free of mini RV camps that block sidewalks and with power generators and trash. There are at least 400 recreational vehicles, doubling as shelter for struggling households, including immigrants and families with young children. The Board of Supervisors is expected to give final approval to Mayor Daniel Lurie's RV proposal. The proposal first cleared the board last week, with 2 of 11 supervisors voting no. Brazil's former President Abolsaro publicly displayed his court-ordered ankle monitor after the Supreme Federal Tribunal imposed new restrictions on far-right leader amid ongoing criminal proceedings. Agents arrived at his residence to fit the electronic ankle bracelet after the court detected him in an increased flight risk. This decision comes amid ongoing investigations into alleged coup attempts to overturn the 2022 election in which he lost to President Lula da Silva. The case, which could see a verdict as early as September, carries potential prison sentences exceeding 40 years. Five aviation unions held a demonstration in the Aeropark George Newbery Airport in Buenos Aires to express their rejection of regulatory changes, delays in wage negotiations, and privatization threats of public companies. Participants held banners and banged drums as they expressed their discontent regarding accumulated wage arrears for cabin crew, layoffs, and President Malay's open skies policy. Aviation unions are also fighting to bring employee salaries in line with inflation and oppose the president's efforts to privatize state-run carrier Aerolíneas Argentinas. The protest was held on The protest was held on the first day of winter break in Buenos Aires city and several provinces. Venezuela's Attorney General Tariq Saab said that his office will investigate El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele and two other officials for the alleged abuse of Venezuelans who were detained in the Central American country. The announcement comes after more than 250 Venezuelans held in El Salvador's notorious prison returned on Friday under the terms of a prisoner exchange agreed with the United States. In northern Vietnam, authorities are urging coastal residents to evacuate ahead of Typhoon Wifa, expected to make landfall in Ninh Binh province on Tuesday. The storm is the sixth of the year, and provinces including Xuang Hinh and Hoang Yên have already begun halting vessel operations and moving people out of high-risk zones. Tourists are also heading home, unsure how severe the typhoon will be. Officials continue to monitor the storm closely and are urging residents to take precautions.
The center of Typhoon.
Moscow was hit with heavy rain, while some areas receiving more than the average monthly rainfall. According to Phobos Weather, the largest precipitation of the rain was recorded in the northwestern part of the city. By Monday morning, Mitingo and Zelenograd had recorded 71.2 millimeters and 91.6 millimeters of rain respectively, exceeding the monthly average. A dramatic moment caught on camera in Florida on Monday as lightning struck the ground in Keystone Heights. The strike was captured by a home security camera during a round of intense storms. Authorities are reminding residents to stay indoors during thunderstorms and to avoid open areas. On the other hand, flooding hit Kansas City on Monday as storms swept across the Midwest. Footage shows a creek overflowing its banks, prompting flash flood warnings from Indianapolis to Cincinnati. According to Public Works Director Troy Shaw, Kansas City officials say this is the worst flooding the area has seen since 1993. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company has surged past the $1 trillion mark in market value for the first time. The stock has soared nearly 50% since April, with Taiwanese shares hitting a record high. The latest earnings report revealed that revenue grew 38% year-on-year, while net income rose 10% from the previous quarter. As the key chip supplier to giants like Nvidia, Apple and Qualcomm, TSMC is riding high on AI and high-performance computing. The milestone follows Nvidia's historic $4 trillion valuation earlier this month. Japan's Nikkei index rose on Tuesday as markets digested the outcome of upper caste election held over the weekend. The initial reaction was positive, with the Nikkei jumping over 1% at the open, despite the ruling coalition losing control of the upper house. Investors shrugged off political uncertainty, betting that major policy shifts are unlikely. Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, already weakened by losing the lower house last year, now faces fresh challenges. Still, he insists he will remain party leader. Opposition party calls out for tax cuts haven't rattled sentiment yet, with investors focused instead on continuity and policy status quo. Oil prices edged lower on Tuesday, pressured by rising concerns that an escalating trade war between the US and the European Union could dampen global fuel demand. Since the June 24th ceasefire between Israel and Iran eased fears of Gulf supply shocks, oil has traded in a tight range. Investors' focus on has now shifted to macroeconomic risks as US tariff threats and the EU countermeasures raise fears of slowing economic activity. Adding to the downward pressure, rising global supply, OPEC and allies are increasing output, and Saudi crude exports hit a 3-month high in May. A weaker US dollar has helped limit the decline, but overall sentiment remains fragile amid geopolitical and economic uncertainty. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is calling for a major overhaul of what he calls an outdated financial regulatory system. Speaking at a Fed conference on Monday, Bessent urged regulators to abandon a proposed dual capital requirement rule, a Biden-era plan that would force banks to hold higher capital buffers. He argued that excessive capitalization is choking lending, hurting economic growth, and pushing activity to less regulated non-bank players. This proposal, drafted in response to 2023's bank failures, lacked sound methodology and would entrench old capital rules as binding flaws. Jasprit Bumrah will play in the Manchester Test against England. Mohammad Siraj confirmed the development. India is 2-1 down in the series and there is full-blown injury crisis in the squad, which leaves India with no option but to opt for Bumrah in the playing 11. Remember, the initial plan was to only select Bumrah in 3 of the 5 tests due to workload management, and this will be his 3rd match of the series. But that plan could change going forward given the current scenario. Veteran tennis star Venus Williams is proving she's still a major draw on the court. The 45-year-old returned to the WTA Tour after a hiatus of 16 months with a statement doubles win in Washington. It was a packed house with about 3,000 fans turning out to watch the 7-time Grand Slam singles champion in action. Williams teamed up with Hailey Baptiste to face Canada's Eugene Bouchard and the US teenager Clervy Onguonwe. They won the match 6-3, 6-1. Williams turns her attention to singles, where she'll open against fellow American Peyton Stearns. Wimbledon's controversial expansion plans have cleared its first legal hurdle. London's High Court has rejected a challenge to the plan by campaign group Save Wimbledon Park. The group had taken legal action against the Greater London Authority, opposing its decision to approve the All England club's bid to nearly triple the size of the Wimbledon site. The proposed expansion includes 39 new courts, an 8,000-seat show court, an increased daily capacity of 50,000 people, and to allow qualifying rounds to be held on the site, which has been home to the championship since 1877. Fans of the iconic 2000 fashion film The Devil Wears Prada are in a frenzy after Academy Award-winning actress Anne Hathway shared a tantalizing first look at her character Andy Sachs from the set of the highly anticipated sequel The Devil Wears Prada 2. The post simply captioned Andy Sachs 2025 Devil Wears Prada 2 confirms that filming is now officially underway in New York City. For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.